Welcome to Just Grow Something, where we dig into all things gardening. Today, we're venturing into the fascinating intersection of technology and horticulture. Have you ever wondered how artificial intelligence might help you grow a better garden? Whether you're a beginner seeking a quick advice or an experienced gardener looking to solve a tricky problem, AI tools can offer insights and solutions tailored to your unique gardening needs. In this episode, we'll explore how AI is changing the way we garden, from diagnosing plant diseases to suggesting the best plants for your specific environment. We'll discuss the benefits, potential pitfalls, and how you can incorporate these tools into your own gardening routine. So if you're curious about how technology can enhance your green thumb, stay tuned. This is an episode you won't want to miss. And if that sounds like it was written by a computer, you are absolutely right. I asked ChatGPT to write me an introduction to a podcast episode that talks about using artificial intelligence to get gardening advice. And that's what it spit out. I mean, it's not bad, but it definitely puts a very positive spin on the use of AI, right? I do searches for gardening topics all the time. I will search key phrases to see if I can come up with topics that people seem to be searching for, or gardening questions that may be trending. I even search specific ideas to see if there's new information or research that I'm not aware of. And more often, I am noticing a disturbing trend. As I look at the search results, oftentimes I will see multiple pages in a row or multiple results in a row, usually sponsored results, that have the exact same key phrases as the meta description. That's that little blurb that you see under the link that tells you what's on the page before you click it. So when I click on one of those pages, I find the page to be full of ads, like overwhelmingly full of ads with very little substance in terms of gardening know-how. And the verbiage and the style of writing is very mechanical, it's disjointed and generic. And then if I click on another result, that page layout is exactly the same, and so is the wording. These pages are all designed to look like legitimate gardening blogs or how-to sites, but they all have two things in common. They're meant to earn money from the overwhelming number of ads being displayed, and they are all written by artificial intelligence. So, today on Just Grow Something, we are diving into AI and gardening advice. Can AI be helpful when asking questions in the garden? And are those answers accurate? How can we determine whether a source is reliable or not? Let's dig in. Hey, I'm Karen. I started gardening in a small corner of my suburban backyard, and now 18 years later, I've got a degree in horticulture and operate a 40-acre market farm. I believe there is power in food and that everyone should know how to grow at least a little bit of their own. On this podcast, I share evidence-based techniques to help you plant, grow, harvest, and store all your family's favorites. Consider me your friend in the garden. So, grab your garden journal and a cup of coffee and get ready to just grow something. So these days, it is increasingly likely that a gardener searching online for answers is going to encounter content that has been generated by artificial intelligence or AI. So tools like ChatGPT and Google's BERT and various content generation platforms are commonly used by websites to produce articles and blog posts and even forum responses, like automated responses on a wide range of topics, and this includes gardening. So there's a lot of reasons why you are going to encounter more of this AI generated content than before. I mean, there is widespread use of AI in content generation or content creation, right? Many websites, especially those focused on producing really large volumes of content, tend to use AI to generate articles very quickly. So this trend is especially common in areas where there is high demand for information, and gardening is one of these. The other reason you might see it more frequently is because AI generated content tends to be optimized for search engines, meaning it is designed to rank really highly in those search results. So even if it's not a sponsored result, meaning they paid to have it at the top of the results, it is optimized so well that it's going to increase the chances that when you search for gardening advice, an AI generated article might be among the top results. Now, some websites use AI to assist human writers. So they're creating content that is sort of a blend of AI generated text or responses and then a human who is editing it. So this is going to make it a little bit harder to figure out whether or not a piece was actually written by a person or if it was written by AI and then just edited by a person. And then there are a lot of content aggregation websites out there, websites that like pull content in from all kinds of different sources. And these, of course, might include AI generated articles, especially if they're focused on very quickly providing this information. They're not necessarily sorting it. And this is an automated process that's just going to pull that information in from wherever it can grab it. And then if you are searching a question that is fairly broad or basic in nature, like how to plant tomatoes, it's more than likely going to return more AI generated content because these types of articles are easier for AI to produce. And we'll talk about how that works here in a little bit. More specialized or very complex questions are still going to require more human input and expertise. And so you have a lower chance of getting AI generated content returned to you. So if you are doing a search for something online and you do not want to see AI generated content, be very, very specific in your question and dive really deep into it and see if you can get very specific so you can get better information back. Now, it's not guaranteed that every search is going to lead you to AI generated content, but the chances are really, really high, especially for the most common gardening questions. And so the fair question is, do I use AI for any of these episodes or for the content in my website? And the answer is yes, but it may not be in the way you might think. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I do online searches for topics to talk about, and I've often used AI to list out the most common gardening questions being asked during a particular time period or regarding a specific topic. I also use AI to organize my material for me. So I'll take the content that I plan to talk about and have it create an outline for me to follow or organize the material into sections for an article to write that make the most sense. So in this way, I use AI as a sort of virtual assistant, a free virtual assistant, I might add, which is great for the budget, and it saves me time putting together episodes and articles. But I don't rely on AI for the information itself. Number one, I want you to get information from my perspective and information that I have researched myself and verified the validity of. I've also seen too many times where I've just used a simple search in Bing, which now gives you an AI generated summary at the top of the page before showing you the search results. And it has given completely incorrect information about whatever question I have asked. So no, I don't trust the machine to do my writing for me for the podcast or for my blog posts. And speaking of those blog posts and the search results that had tons of advertisements all over them, I do have ads on my blog posts. Nothing overwhelming, but they're fed from Google just to, make a few pennies to help keep the lights on in my office. And I choose how many ads are placed on the page so that it's not overwhelming. The same goes for the ads that you hear in the podcast that are automatically inserted. I get to select which topics I don't want advertisements for. So you shouldn't ever hear any ads for medications or anything because I choose not to have those included. And anytime you hear me mention a product of any kind, like anything that I talk about in my own voice, that is a product I have actually tried and love or plan to order, regardless of whether it's an affiliate, a sponsor, or there is no compensation at all. Magic Mind has been at the top of that list the past few weeks because not only is it peak farming season, I'm doing this podcast, I'm training for a marathon, and then I have 3 ultra marathons right in a row behind that. Plus, we have a couple other things brewing in the background, and that all takes a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of focus. The ingredients in Magic Mind compound their effects over time, which is what makes it so magical. The nootropics and the adaptogens do start to work right away the first day you take it, but after 7 days, they have really hit their peak, and it's just sustained energy. No spikes and crashes like you get with energy drinks or caffeine shots, just even flow with natural science-backed ingredients, and you know how I feel about evidence-based goodness. If you want to take the Magic Mind 7-day challenge like I did, head to magicmind.com/justgrowsomething and use code justgrowsomething20 to save big on a subscription or 20% on a one-time purchase. Take it for 7 days and you will be amazed at the difference. magicmind.com/justgrowsomething with code justgrowsomething20 at checkout. And as for those AI-generated pages with all of their ads, not all of them are 100% AI. Yes, there are plenty of pages that have been coded to automatically generate based on keyword searches and optimized to hit the highest rank in the searches. But there are some that are sort of hybrids. So how can you identify whether gardening advice has been written by AI or an actual knowledgeable person? First thing is to check for depth and detail. So AI generated content usually just kind of provides generic advice. It's going to lack any depth, right? It might cover the basics really well, but it's going to struggle with more nuanced or complex issues. Typically, if it's a person writing it, especially an expert in the field, it's going to include some detailed explanations, some personal experiences, maybe some case studies if you're getting very scientific about it. You're going to get insights that go beyond just like the basic information that you could find anywhere. It's going to address specific challenges or provide more advanced tips that you may not see elsewhere. The other thing is to look for more of a personal touch, I guess. As you saw in that first paragraph or two that I read for the intro, AI-generated content usually lacks a personal voice. Now, it's getting better, but it still tends to be just more clear and concise and informative, but is very sort of impersonal or genetic. It's not going to be able to share like a personal anecdote or, an observation about something. Obviously, people can do that. Expert written content is going to include like personal touches and opinions or references to the writer's own gardening experiences. So this makes the content a little bit more engaging and, it seems a little bit more trustworthy when it seems like it's coming from a person. The other thing that you can do is check for repetition and redundancy. This is probably the thing that I see the most when you have articles that are generated intentionally to meet a specific word count. It tends to repeat the same points over and over again, just in different words or in different ways, or it just includes really unnecessary filler content. So this is a sure sign that they're just trying to meet a specific word count in order to fit that page. If you've got an expert writing some content, it's going to be fairly concise and to the point. You're not going to have a bunch of unnecessary repetition. Everything is going to clearly be serving a purpose. It's not just filler words, right? And then kind of going back to the fact that AI content is very broad, the advice itself is going to be very generalized. It's going to lack specifics that address any type of a unique circumstance. If you were to go, onto my website and do a search for, say, nutrient deficiencies in plants, all of those articles that come up are going to include specific details that show a deep understanding of the subject. It might talk about particular soil types. It might talk about climate considerations. If you look for pest management, it's going to talk about strategies that are specific to certain pests. AI generated content just isn't going to have that depth of information. And then, of course, the tone, again, is just going to be off. Like AI might produce content that is, quality, but it's very formal, or it can be very awkward. Again, it is getting better. And honestly, I mean, there are some writers out there who write like they speak. And so it also tends to be a little awkward, but at least it tends to be more natural. And at least it reflects the author's personality. It's, engaging. It's tailored to who's reading it, not just a generic audience that might just, do a simple word search or keyword search. When you're on these sites, try to check the credentials, right? There should be, a page, an About Us page. If there's nothing there, there's no author byline, it's published under a generic byline like staff writer or something like that. If it doesn't mention the writer's bio at the bottom, there's no background or qualifications. It's very possible this is being written by AI. If it's a single individual who is, running the entire website, like my website, you're going to see an About Us page or About Me page or something that's going to include information about who this person is, what their expertise is, what their qualifications are to be writing about this subject, references at least to their gardening experience or something. But if it's all AI generated content, that's not going to be out there, right? And then if there is a really large volume of articles, especially across a bunch of different topics, if the website itself covers like a wide range of subjects and it updates really, really frequently, it very well may be using AI. If you have one person, or even if you have a staff of like 5 people who are contributing articles to a website, it is not very likely that that website is going to be publishing 5 articles a day all about the same subject, or 5 articles a day on a wide range of subjects, unless it's a national publication like the New York Times or something like that, right? You're going to find that if it's written by an expert or somebody who knows what they're talking about, or at least an actual human being, you're going to find it on some pretty niche websites. You're going to find it on blogs, platforms that are focused specifically on gardening, or, like in the terms of those larger publications, a gardening section of a larger site. But they're more likely to feature content that is written by people who have real world experience, or whether they're just enthusiasts or they are actual professionals, but it's not going to be AI generated. So just kind of review the content strategy of the website, and you might be able to figure out whether or not it's AI generated or it's actually expert written content. So you might be able to better judge whether the gardening advice you're reading is coming from a bot or if it's actually coming from a knowledgeable human. Now, is all the information you get from AI going to be bogus? No. AI generates answers to questions through a combination of techniques that involve natural language processing, machine learning, and vast amounts of data. So AI models like ChatGPT are trained on very extensive data sets. And this is, books and articles and websites and any other written resources they can get their hands on. I mean, not their hands, not the AI hands, the trainer's hands, the human hands. So these data sets are, basically a wide range of topics, and it lets the AI learn the structure and the content of human language. So AI models, GPT, the GPT in Chat GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. So these AI models are pre-trained on a general data set that covers a wide variety of topics. And so the idea is to get it to generate text that is grammatically correct and that seems appropriate to the context of the question. And they continue to learn and they add more data to that database to be able to answer more completely the next time the question is asked. The problem is that these are all probability-based responses. AI doesn't always know the correct answer, so it generates responses based on probability. If it's not sure, it's just going to give you like a general or very vague answer that covers multiple possibilities. And it can sometimes produce answers that are completely incorrect. If it's finding information in its data set that is incorrect, but it has been repeated so often, meaning it has been published and written over and over and over again, that it's now integral to that data set, it's going to repeat that information because it doesn't know any better, right? So until the correct information is more prevalent in the data set than the incorrect information, AI is just going to keep regurgitating the wrong answer. So AI generates answers by predicting the most likely sequence of words based on the patterns that it has learned from the vast amounts of data that it's been trained on. It doesn't understand. It uses algorithms to produce responses that are supposed to be relevant, coherent, and in the proper context. It just may not always be accurate. Until next time, my gardening friends, keep on cultivating that dream garden, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Just Grow Something podcast. For more information about today's topic and to find all the ways you can get in touch with me or support the show, go to justgrowsomethingpodcast.com. Until next time, my gardening friends, keep learning and keep growing.